All right, hello everybody. Welcome back. Where's that? Well, I think Joshua goes, "Good morning, TRI." Right, and all my neighbors around me go, "Fuck, man, shut up." Anyway, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the broadcast, our daily brief here. With we got actually the bear in the house today. He's back after a short break. I think. Somebody released him from the jungles of what jungles are you in these days now?
I got on a boat and I ended up in Antarctica.
Jungles of Antarctica. We went the other direction. Damn. Anyway, good morning, sir. Nice to see you back in the saddle.
Good morning.
Really interesting stuff going on in crypto today. We talked lots about Brian's rhetoric and his thoughts past couple of days while you were gone. We had Grim give us some of the Wookiee love the other day, which was cool. And actually, I think Wookiee, you and I are going to have dinner this evening in Gastown, right? Or not? Yeah. Do we want to go down to Gastown? I think so. Down to Bridges, eh? So we should probably hook up later on this morning. But anyway, they released him from the jungles of Antarctica very briefly, but I think he has to go back into the cave later on today. So we did get a little opportunity to talk with Mr. Bear. And I think he does have a nice docket of stuff for us to review. So without further ado, dude, you want to take the ball and run with it?
Yeah, let's do it. Sorry, the satellites are only above Antarctica for 2 days this week. So that's why you got me today and Thursday.
All right. Well, we'll take it when we can get you.
All right. So
where do you want to begin today?
I want to start off with a little bit of stock market, not too much, just enough to give something to people to chew on. This is a really interesting story that's coming out of MarketWatch.
Did you see the daily brief yesterday? We actually did the options analysis and we took a look at some of the strike prices. So it's really interesting options data there.
Yeah, you did a great job showing all that. I hope people are going to at least consider taking a trade or at least paper trading that options idea. Those of you that aren't in level 3 yet, you're going to get a full dose of how to trade options and how to make a lot of money if you find the right names that are in the right places. And I may be giving you another one of those names right now.
Oh, cool. What's on your mind?
So we've got an article from MarketWatch that was talking about another stock that looks ready to join the discard pile. So for anyone that remembers General Electric, that one kind of shit the bed a couple months ago. They started pulling out the dividends that they were paying their customers. You can see the stock went down in almost in half, probably in the last year. So this article talks about the next one being ExxonMobil, which historically speaking has always been a cash cow. The article touches on how generations upon generations would whisper to their next of kin that if you hold Exxon, you're guaranteed to make money. And realistically, that did hold true for a really long time. You can see on my chart here that if we go all the way back to 1980, I mean, this thing has done absolutely just gone higher every single year, with the exception of a couple of years. But the stock at its high in 2014 was $100. Now, if you start drilling down and looking at what's been happening over the last couple of years, you can see that the market's putting in M's. It's giving you its warning signals on the monthly. If you look at the weekly, you can start to see the same kind of breakdowns. And we're sitting on a key level here at the $74 level. And the reason why this article is talking about ExxonMobil being in trouble is mainly because they're considering the same slashing in dividend yields giving out to anyone that's holding their stocks. And the way that they've been paying out their dividends has been dangerous. Sort of the same method that General Electric was using. Exxon has been using the same method. So this article is kind of warning people that this is going to happen, that this stock is going to unwind even further. Anyone that's interested in that, I will certainly put that in the comment section of the YouTube video. But if you can take a look at these fib retracements, obviously on a monthly level, this is going to take a while to play out. But you can see that there is a ton of open air down here. If this, I mean, we are sitting on this M here, and then this larger neckline here, if that were to be breached, you can see that we've got kind of 20 or so dollars on the downside also. So for anyone that's doing option strategies, you can go and hunt those. I'm not going to do that here, unless we get
the question really here is, does it make sense that oil is a 20th century story?
There you go. And there's the key.
I think oil is a 20th century story. And really, you know, like, isn't Monks, aren't they trying to build like household power generators or something like that?
Yeah,
and then there's a guy, actually, I think Monks, he went like the big size, and then there's some guy who wants to like build like handheld powered generators and stuff like that, eh?
Yeah,
and,
totally.
And I suppose you could argue, you know, like anybody who lives here in Vancouver, it's almost insulting. It's like $1.50 a liter for gasoline here. And I see more and more of these Teslas, you know, and I heard that Tesla, they're trying to, you know, in fact, pull up, what would be really interesting is to do a cross comparison of Tesla and that ExxonMobil chart. Because if I'm not mistaken, Tesla's trying to sort of, it might be them. I also saw an article about a competitor that's trying to like market that sort of mid-tier, like $30,000 car that's basically a fuel cell car. And if they can do that, then literally crude oil and really just as another proxy in the commodity space, they got the wind in their face for like the next 17 years. Right. So I think it makes sense. It's logical. I mean, for heaven's sakes, don't go and load up on ExxonMobil here. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, no, it's just an idea to chew on if you want to buy some puts on the stock and time it the right way.
How would we do that? Probably the best thing to do would be for us, you know, oops, oh, it's such a pretty chart. Bye-bye chart. Oh, there it is. It's back. The Exxon chart, probably, you know, if you drew like horizontal support and resistance off all those peaks and then you see the top of value there, my hunch is, you know, like on any kind of sort of seasonal rally into sort of maybe late summer, early fall, September-ish kind of idea, if you can get any kind of counter trend rallies back up into those peaks, that's probably your trade location.
Totally.
I suppose one could argue that, you know, actually the level twoers just did this. Mike, what do you think? Those profiles, is there some unfinished business maybe there? I don't know whether, Mike, you're in level 2, aren't you? Yeah, you can see that. Who else is a new level twoer, right? They just learned this stuff. Oh, China Tim's usually here. We don't have China Tim here today. Anyway. So, you know, any level twoers that are here that have just done this module, hopefully, you know, there's a big old levels that are jumping out at you there. So the chart on the bottom is Tesla?
Yep.
And that's a monthly?
It is.
I was reading somewhere that Tesla, they were all excited. They had like the biggest one-day point gain and record or something crazy like that. So maybe that just happened. All right.
Daily.
Oh, look at that. That's a Joby Gap. Oh, son of a gun. So actually, there's a long trade I see developing on Tesla there. Yeah, and I said, well, you know, and here's the thing, right? And actually, this is a good point that we should make. Yeah, I think so. Mike's pointing out on Thomas's top chart, you can see how price sort of left value up top there when it traded up to 104 area, and then it reversed and it came sort of back into value there. And so they say 80% of the time, probably market needs to come down and do that MUOC and tag the bottom of value. So yeah, that's a good observation, Mike. But just keep in mind, right? We got to be careful with Hogue, and the level twoers are getting a little tripped up with this. Hey, there's China Tim. I was just talking about you. We have to be careful here in that Hogue was a pit trader, a day trader. So in the level 2 lounge, remember the gold chart I just posted you? Those plays are primarily off the session data, right? So we just have to be careful with that, okay? Need YouTube link. Well, I posted the YouTube link, Tim. And now I see that you're in the Hangout too. So hopefully you're good to go. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic, but I totally agree with you. A lot of these U.S. stocks, and Mike in our RSP group. In fact, this is a really good segue. Check this out, guys. I mean, this is what we talk about. The writing is on the walls. Mike sent me yesterday, and Mike, do you mind if I show this post here? Are you okay with this? I got to ask first, right? Because I fucked up big time with Kevin, and I fucking hated myself for fucking that up. So I want to make sure I ask right before I show anybody's shit here. So I thought this was fascinating. Mike sent me this message the other day. Almost half of the outstanding mortgages in Canada, I'm assuming, many of them on fixed rate terms, will have an interest rate reset within the year. And of course, we just saw interest rates all crank up there, right? Increasing the strain on the household debt servicing capacity, Moody's said. So interesting, we can actually see the fundamental story start playing out here, the end of this crazy, Canadian real estate market and stuff coming to fruition here. You can start, yeah, it's almost exactly, and especially, ExxonMobil, that would make perfect sense, because if oil, knocks itself down, then this massive investment that we made in oil sands and all this kind of stuff. And I also saw this was really interesting too. The people in Alberta are getting so upset that they're getting so screwed by the Americans shipping their bitumen down to the States that they've invested a lot of money in refining that product to the point where it's like the high quality product that the Americans aren't going to give them a discount on. So in a weird sort of way, where actually you can almost see all of the pieces are coming together, and it would make sense like an Exxon is going to top out here, because the Canadians, they're going to be desperate for any kind of revenue, and they will just sell this oil into the market and flood the market. And keep in mind, guys, there is more oil in the Canadian tar sands than there is in Saudi Arabia. So, talk about a perfect storm scenario for crude oil here. If anything, sorry?
No, it's totally, you're right on there.
Yeah. So I think on balance, let's maybe avoid investing in oil stocks for the time being. I think that's probably the simplest message. And especially once we get outside the seasonal window, like the old seasonal trade goes, you buy on your unleaded, you're in the middle of February, you sell at the middle of May, you made money 9 out of the past 10 years. So, we are in, ironically enough, Exxon's getting its ass kicked, but we are technically in the seasonally friendly time of year. Once we exit that seasonally friendly time of year, oh boy.
And it's funny that this article is coming out and it's saying that, oh, Exxon's about to crap out and you need to get ready for it to join the discard pile. Meanwhile, I'm looking at this daily chart and I'm thinking, this thing looks pretty attractive down here. I mean, take a look at this. There's, we're in resistance to the left here.
Support?
Excuse me, we're in support here to the left. Thank you.
Below value too.
Yeah, and we're below value. Willie stupid. My indicator's recharging, and
look at those gaps up top, eh?
Yeah, I almost like this to play on the long side right now.
Well, and is it the middle of February right now? I think so.
It's middle of March, close enough.
Oh, it's the middle of March, isn't it? So isn't that interesting? So there's seasonal trade. You can see that dip bar about a month ago in February there, right? So you can see where they set up the bottom of this range for this seasonal trade, right? Now they're just trying to goad the public. Come on, a little bit more selling. Come on, sell a bit more. But, if you look at that profile, you can clearly see there's lots and lots of unfinished business here.
Yeah, this looks interesting. Stay tuned for this one.
Well, I think just as we said just a few minutes ago, look for that seasonal rally, whether it be May, June, July, August. Usually August is the perfect time for this. Maybe, we might get a bidding up in this stock because maybe of some hurricanes or something that are affecting the Gulf of Mexico drill rigs, right? And all of a sudden these oil stocks catch a bid, which has absolutely nothing to do with Exxon at all, right? So, that's sort of what I'm thinking there too. Well, I think it makes sense. And as I said just a moment ago, our RSP group, we're looking really closely at the Canadian banks. We would really like to, start establishing short positions on them, through the end of the summer as well. So, we could just go through the list and, some of them are already starting to top out. Like I heard Boeing was kind of getting its ass kicked here recently. So it had its sort of parabolic rise. Do we now start, carving out? Yeah, you can. Holy shit, you can see it developing, right? Can you guys see the top coming in here? Kind of like Exxon. It's probably going to go back and forth here for a while. You can kind of see the massive head and shoulders top that's going to develop. And the irony of it all is we can see where this goddamn market's going to go. I mean, it's as plain as day. We all know this gap's going to be filled in at some point. It's coming. It's just a question of how does it happen? And you can see that, that would imply with this guy, let's say he fails from, say, the 310, 320 area, dumps down into 210, 220. That's going to be your stock market crash. The Dow loses 25% in one day. Blah! But really, it's just a technical cleanup. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, I think we've got some Davos showing up in OBV and Willie for sure. I mean, this one's pretty close. Let's see.
You mean bearish?
Yeah, bearish Davos.
Yeah, I mean, on balance, nobody should be buying this. This has just got train wreck written all over it, and it's just really a question of how does this play out. But I totally agree with you, Thomas. Those people that are comfortable with going and buying put options to play the market, like long dated leaps and stuff, we should be building those lists. Mike, let's go through all of the Dow stocks, right, and just build those lists, right? It's going to take a lot of time and effort. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of work. But my hunch is there is a shitload of money to be made on the downside of the market when it breaks here. And my hunch is I can feel it. I think this is coming in, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously that's purely opinion, but I think the risk reward of risking $1 to make like $5 or $6 on the downside, I think is real. So, build your plans and let's attack and come to the RSP meeting and we'll review all our sexy ideas. Okay. That was quite a bit of stocks.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, do you see how the bonds are finally trying to turn here? So actually this might be sort of what sets the stage for the next stock market rally as the bonds perk up here a little bit. And the guy running the show down in the States, man, I can't believe it. He just went and sacked his foreign relations sort of head honcho. So, now there's even more chaos in the State Department down in the States. You can't write better fiction than reality, guys. I got to tell you, you just can't write better fiction than reality. But what's interesting here about the S&Ps, I just noticed, can you guys see how they brought the market up to the gap here? And they just couldn't close that gap. So clearly it looks like whoever's running the show here doesn't want the market to go any higher here. And also interesting too, for those people that are trading this, look how we tagged up top of value here, that little notch right there. That would have been a sick ass trade location too. And also too, just, burn your toast. Notice how basically they just went and busted the stops on these highs here and then crapped it out. I still think, we talked about yesterday options expiry coming up here on Friday. I think you're going to see the fireworks into Thursday. So 2 more days. And of course, that's Ides of March and all that crap, right? And then Friday should be a quiet day. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of fireworks around this. We might even see a nice pullback to come in and fill these gaps in. And then Friday, they just take it out nice and quietly. And then we're going to see whether, that options expiry, we're going to see whether Wall Street goes out heavy stock, or whether they hit a home run and they can just keep moving the market higher here. So anyway, okay, sorry, way off topic. Sorry about that, Thomas.
Oh, it's great that we're going back and forth on this. Should we move to Bitcoin then?
Sure. Do we feel talked out about commodities and stuff? Actually, gold's hanging in relatively well here, gotta admit.
I do like gold. It looks like it's trying to form a bottom here. Yeah. You definitely have this ascending price wedge that's coming in here over the last week or so.
Yeah.
And you break this neckline here, and then you've got the resistance up here that's waiting for you. And these are the key highs that you need to take out. You need to take out 1365, 1366, and make new highs for the last couple of years. Otherwise, we might be in a bit of trouble here. And this consolidation pattern that's happening may suggest that there is accumulation happening in this area. You can see that this was a previous period of accumulation, and we dipped down, and there was a very strong demand each day to bring the price back up, and even above value from what this accumulation level was. So, I mean, if you can take past price action into account, what you saw with this accumulation and then dip down, maybe that needs to happen before we can zoom back up to really test price. And you can see that there's a gap sitting right at 1300, 1305. And if they want to take the price down in there and then go back up, I would be really happy to see that. We do have a potential bullish divergence working. Willie's not quite stupid. I think he's probably recharged by now. And, you know, volume's put in a W, or is trying to at least put in this OBVW here. So that'll be encouraging. But I think it's a little early, maybe a couple days or a week or so before this breaks. But it's definitely going to take a direction soon. And that direction, again, is going to be based on what the dollar does. So you can see the dollar looks kind of toppy, whereas gold looks kind of bottomy. Whichever way these things go, again, they always go in inverses. They have an inverse relationship. So I would expect and would like to see the dollar break down lower and see gold make new highs if this low in the dollar is broken. So it's the same thing with each, with the dollar versus gold here.
Yeah, I still, you know, honestly, I still would like one more stab lower on the gold, fill in your notch. And, you know, for those people that are interested in gold stocks, Mike found this one. It's an old sort of stalwart from back in the 90s that I used to trade in the 2000s. Timmins, they restructured themselves through the gold bear. It often happens. And I absolutely love this level here. You know, it's like 2.25, 2.5 kind of area, sitting at 3.25 right now. I'd love to get one more nice push lower on that gold. And then, you know, we talked about this recently with the euro. I'd love to get one more nice push in here, then to set up that counter trend rally into the spring, summer. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I'd love to see it play out that way, but you never know. But anyway, if people are interested, somebody was asking me, are there any stocks that you're interested in right now? I'm very interested in picking up a few of these Alio Gold shares. I actually really like this name. So. And that's thanks to Mike and the RSP group research that we do. Great group. I'm so pleased with that, and I'm so happy we got that up and running. So anyway, okay, I guess we better hop on over to crypto. We got a lot of people that are like, hey, when are we going to talk about Bitcoin, man? So what's on, and I'd actually be curious to see what your take on the price action of late is.
Well, Goldman Sachs warns of Bitcoin going under 6,000.
That means the fucking thing's going up now.
It's going to 600,000.
Jerks.
I mean, I don't really care what this article says, and I don't really care what Goldman Sachs has to say, but, you know, they're typical bullshit they're spewing out here. So with that,
it would be interesting to see if Roham is still around. I haven't seen him on the site too much of late, and what his cousin is thinking. It was that his cousin's work that did this article, or was it somebody else?
This looks like the author was Wilma Wu.
Okay, that definitely does not sound Jewish. So, Roham, do you remember her? She's a Jewish girl. Anyway, that wasn't her name. Definitely not. So,
no, I don't know if she was on.
Pardon me?
She was an author, or she's on the site?
No. She was. She actually remember back last summer. Remember the days when Bitcoin was $2,000-$3,000 and we were talking about it going to like 5,000 and 7,000 and stuff. I mean, it's not that long ago, but it's so funny how that feels like it's like literally generations ago. Let's see if I can find it. She was the one who put together these studies. Do you remember? Oh no, they got rid of it. Oh, motherfuckers! Seriously? Maybe this one's still here. That one gone too? Oh, these sons of bitches. Damn it. Those are such cool charts. I can't believe they got rid of them. Damn it. Oh, that sucks. Well, I better get rid of those links. Anyway, that's the one bad thing about the internet. It's gone today, or here today, gone tomorrow. Anyway, she, and I have them in Twitter and stuff. I can go find them. But she did, you know, Elliott wave counts. Do you remember that stuff?
Oh, and someone from the site brought her work to us.
No, it was Roham. Do you remember Roham? It was his cousin. That's his cousin.
Oh, cool. We need to get him back on here.
Yeah, well, and how ironic, Bitcoin's gone basically rolled over, and Roham's nowhere to be seen. What a surprise! Anyway, okay, so I totally cut you off. Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
That's cool. We were just, downplaying this Goldman Sachs warning because whatever Goldman says to do, you got to do the opposite. So let's take a look at the charts and see what they're saying versus what Goldman Sachs is warning us about. So they're warning $6,000, and my daily chart looks pretty ugly, probably because you can't see anything that's happening on it, but also because we have confirmed this nasty looking M here, and we're just kind of consolidating on the daily chart. You do have this bearish divergence that's still working here, and Willie's not quite stupid. So we're consolidating between 38.2 and 50% level here. I mean, I think Bitcoin needs to make up its mind about a direction. I think we're still trapped in this trading range on these lower time frames. Even the 4-hour doesn't seem to have any direction. I know Friday and through the weekend, there were some great longs that I personally and some others that had some tutorials with me did great going long Friday night and through the weekend, taking other longs off the bottom ends of ranges here. But right now, I mean, you have nothing to trade on here. These 4-hour candles, there's a lot of action that's inside them. And if you want to take short-term trades, that's great. But the problem is there's no direction here. So if you're going to be trading on the hourly or the 30-minute chart, you better be ready to get in and out of your position within a couple hours, because according to this, whichever way this breaks, it's going to be a big move. But you can't front run the move yet. We don't know if it's up or down. For as far as a down move, I mean, any break below this blue line is not good news. And any break above this neckline here is going to be cut off by the 200 period moving average unless you get a whole bunch of buying volume come in. I don't see.
Look at that profile. That looks dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
What I'm kind of thinking is if you look at the higher time frame, it sure looks like a bear AB equals CD is trying to form here. So on my chart here, we got AB consolidation back to moving average, CD looking for a move down into here. And actually, this might make sense. I do like the idea of wicks and tails like to be eaten. People who are trading the higher time frames keep a really sharp eye out for these candle body lows. And so as we approach the 6,000s, right, people are going to be, oh, Goldman said it's going to go below 6,000. So they're going to see that 6,000 number and they're going to dump it ahead of time. But I got a funny feeling that we're going to come right down into this tail and see some sort of pivot around this 6,600. Now, what they might do, wouldn't surprise me at all, is, and this is sort of what we've been sort of looking for, is you get big fuck yous, right? And then bounce back, and we ultimately end up consolidating right off the harmonic objective. I could totally see that happen. And of course, this is this G20 event that I know it sucks, guys, and I know we don't want it, but I would prefer Bitcoin be soft into this event versus firm. If it's soft, like that Lagarde chick I was posting out this morning, man, she has got a fucking hard on for regulating, outlying this crypto, eh? I don't know whether you guys saw the tweets and stuff, and I was just like, we got to go get her a date and get her to calm down.
She's the worst, Brian. She is one of the most corrupt politicians that's been installed in the IMF, that arguably is the worst. And some of the policies that she's enacted for Europe are literally enacted because someone paid her enough money to do them, and it's publicly available and has come out, and no one's doing anything about it. I mean, this woman is so powerful. She's taken in so much money, and she makes so many important decisions for the IMF and the European banking sector that it's horrifying that the level of corruption is so visible, and yet nothing has been done about her. It's so disgusting. And so you can clearly see that because she's so against Bitcoin, that she does have the bank's kind of best interests in mind. So whatever the banks are whispering in her ear, we now know what they're thinking. And because she wants tighter regulation, she wants to prevent cryptocurrencies were being used for illicit activities, this is what the banks are, telling her, look, we don't want this mainstream. We don't think it'll work in Europe. It's going to ruin everything that we've built here. So say whatever the hell you need to say to keep this thing, at least delay its massive, its large scale adoption.
Yeah.
And that's what she's coming out and saying here.
And I see that the cripple guy, he's like, you can literally see that the powers that be are setting this guy up. Like they give him like powder puff interviews on like Bloomberg and stuff like this, that, the interviews are just total fluff. And nobody is holding this guy to account and actually, explicitly detailing that Ripple is not a Bitcoin. They're like apples and oranges. And I'm hearing people going, oh, Ripple's the next Bitcoin. What? And the sad thing is that plays right into Lagarde's sort of fantasy world of, central control and keeping the minions all in place. It's a bit sad. But at the end of the day, I'm actually, and this was really cool. I don't know whether I can show you this or not, but I'm going to anyway, because Brian's a shit disturber. But one of my students in the level 1 program, oh, fuck, no, I can't. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. But anyway, there's a lot of people that the word going around is there's a trade that's developing, and I'll find it for you guys later on, to short the Dow and go long Bitcoin through the summer here. And I think I really am liking the smell of this trade. So keep that in mind, guys. You've heard me say this all along. Don't get sucked into this bullshit. I think, if they can bring Bitcoin back down to quote unquote value, then it's a fucking buy of a lifetime. But don't get sucked into the FUD as price comes down into value, right? That you get swept up in the, oh no, Bitcoin's gone to zero. It's not. You have to look at it like the fluff is in there. They're trying to get the fluff out, and they're trying to and they're trying to get the public out of this space so that all the smart people can load up at value. Lincoln, was that you? Was that yours? I was pretty impressed with this article. Basically, and I don't know whether we're allowed to share it or not. But anyway, these guys and buried, I think, on page 20 or something like this of this report, they just simply outline we want to go short stocks and long Bitcoin. And actually, they even give you a long proxy. You can go long. You can go short the Dow through this thing called DOG, right? Which is the inverse of the Dow trade. So isn't that interesting? If this was an altcoin, guys, would anybody be interested in buying this if this was an altcoin? Oh, you can't see my screen. Oh, there we go. Would anybody be interested in buying this if this was an altcoin? Isn't that funny?
Where are the gaps?
Oh no, huge gaps. Like, look at that hole right there. Look at this. Oh, look at this island right up here, right at the top of value here, right? And I suppose like this is what I think it's like. I don't know whether this is a 1-to-1.
Is this an ETF?
Yeah.
Can you just buy this?
Yeah. It's a ProShare short Dow 30.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna go buy that.
Seriously, why not? I mean, look at this.
Damn.
Like there's the bottom in the stock market way over there, right? 2008, 2009, right? Can you imagine if you own this, right? And you get sucked into the FUD and you bought this thing when Obama took over and everything, capitalism's over, blah, blah, blah. What a fucking death of 1,000 little, daggers, right? But this is starting to look really interesting down in here, eh? So, I mean, dollar cost averaging, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, Grim, seriously, dude. I mean, this is no brainer for you. So, and just trade this, try and sell halves on doubles, the irony of it all. Well, 14. Yeah, Thomas, let's go look and see if we can buy options on this thing. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, let's check that out. You're going to see the TRI effect on this tomorrow. The price is going to be 50% higher.
As if. All right. So, Mike, excellent, Mike. So, Mike, does it make sense that this is the kind of thing we need to be talking about in our group? Not our group, right? The TRI group, RSP group, whatever, right? Mike's even started to draw charts. Look at that. Excellent. Good job, guys. I mean, and hopefully, you know, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. We're talking about making money as the market's coming off, right, and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully, you guys are getting value out of this experience, because really, guys, this is the shit, right? This is what you have to do in capitalism. Is, you know, when everybody else is frothy uppy, you got to think panic, and not panic, but you got to think, okay, well, you know, as the public comes in and they do their thing, top of the cycle, as soon as the yield curve inverts, we know it's a go, right? And you got to have all of these options, you know, well, various investment choices in place, ready to go, so that when the trade is on, you just, all right, I'm just executing the plan. So it's good that in February, we're doing the research now to set us up for the trade in the fall. So awesome work, everybody. All right, where should we go next?
They don't let you buy any options on this past August.
Coincidence? I wonder.
And the volume is incredible. The open interest is incredibly thin. This is probably the lowest open interest on something like that I've seen. You know, even the inverse volatility products had more open interest than this.
That's interesting how you can't get options past August there, though. Hey, isn't that fascinating? Huh. Yeah. So, you know, this is now where we got to do our research, and we got to go through all these different ETFs. Yeah. And, you know, like, did anybody do the assignment, you know, when you were waiting for the level 1 course to start, to read the Market Wizards books? Did anybody do that? I hope so. There was an article in there. I think it was Bill Lipschitz. There's a name, eh? Bill Lipschitz. And he would always talk about, and I don't know whether it was him or not, but they would talk about how they had this one client who every August would come in without question and just sell like 500 contracts of S&Ps. Just sell 500 contracts. I don't care. In a second or third week of August every year, and every year the motherfucker would make money. So, you know, really the trade almost always sets up in August. I got a funny feeling, though, that, you know, it might like front run, say, middle of July. But the long and short of it, hopefully we're understanding the mechanics of this trade. It's actually setting itself up now. So great work, everybody. Okay, so I think over the short term, what are we thinking about here on Bitcoin? We just need to see some sort of resolution of this current trading range. And I agree with you, Thomas. Like, if you look at my screen, I can make the case, and we've had a number of people in the lounge make this case that, hey, I see a bullish bot. We have not gone below 66%. We've not broken these uptrends, these trend lines. And we actually have higher highs and higher lows on things like momentum indicators. So, you know, if you have the bot in your trading plan and this comes in, you got to take the trade. You know, you got to live by the sword, die by the sword, right? Put the fucking opinion away. You don't know what's going to happen in this world. And now, you know, we got a cute little double bottom and really 1, 2, 3, 4 key lows to work stops against. If this comes in, guys, I think I have to take it. I don't really have a choice, because it wouldn't be a good role model for you if I didn't take it. Is the trade going to work? I have no fucking clue, right? I gotta live by whatever the setups tell me to do. And that's the weird thing about trading, guys. As soon as you can, you know, find a setup that produces results, you know, at least 50, 60, ideally 60, 70% of the time, and it's better than 2 to 1, you got to take the trade, right? You just got to live with the results. So there is that sitting on the table. But at the same time, too, like I said earlier, I'm feeling like, you see how we ran into these moving average resistance levels? And, you know, if we put in a nice little inside bar here and then fail, that's going to be a fractal top sell signal, which of course would not break that OKCoin high there. And we CD our way lower. So as Thomas said, and I 100% agree with him, this is a really interesting battle zone right here. And whoever wins the battle here is going to carry the day. Is this a high probability zone? I don't think so. I think actually this is going to be extremely high anxiety for a lot of new traders, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's stop runs on both sides. This is a very, very difficult place in the charts. And as you know, as I've sort of said, what's interesting is Mountain Man, you know, like this setup, he's still just sitting there in his short, waiting for this Mountain Man level to be tagged. So I could make an argument that we potentially had bullish setups trying to come in here. I suppose, I don't really like this double bottom because these lows need the candle body actual close lower. If we change this to a line chart, you see that double bottom disappears. But I definitely do like if we go up through here, this is serious, right? But it's a big if right now, just as Thomas said. And I love the fact, guys, I seriously love the fact Thomas and I really do, sometimes we'll be like disagreeing, man, well, Thomas think one way, Brian's thinking that. When I just noticed, like from Brian's perspective, when Brian and Thomas are agreeing, then really, that's probably the message of the day. And I think that what we're agreeing on is this is a tough location. And I don't think we should be a hero and call the market right here. You just got to let the market tell you what needs to happen. All right. Sorry, Thomas. That was a long rant. Ooh, sorry about that.
We're going to call it the BB indicator, the Brian Bear indicator, according to Rob.
BT? Can we call it the TB? How about the TB indicator?
Thomas that sounds Brian? Like tuberculosis. I don't know.
Okay. TB. BT? All right. We'll think about it. I don't know. Is there an animal that Brian, what's a bot? Is a bot an animal? I don't know. The robot bear. So that would be RB. I don't know. All right, let's keep moving on, or Brian's going to just waste a lot of time here. Sorry, everybody.
All right. So
what should we talk about next?
I know we keep talking about G20 and we keep talking about price is going to get shit on or into it, and we want to see Bitcoin, quote unquote. Brian wants it on its knees. So there's an article here talking about what Japan wants to see out of the G20. And just to be clear, so everyone knows the dates, the annual summit is in Buenos Aires on March 19th to the 20th. So that is Monday, Tuesday, and that is key, right? So we're going to watch what they have to say. Japan, here the article focuses on what Japan wants to see out of the G20. And Japan obviously does not want to see innovation stifled. What they want to see is kind of an evolution of the way that the anti-money laundering strategy for cryptocurrencies is formulated so that it's specific to controlling money laundering and outlining, kind of know your customer stuff for crypto, but at the same time, not causing panic in the market. Now that's just Japan, right? G20 is made up of all these different countries, probably.
But I like that. I really like that because it's what it says to me is like Lagarde when she just says money laundering, terrorist. They're not actually providing any solutions. They're just trying to, FUD the space up. So I actually really like to hear that the Japanese are like, shut the fuck up, you idiot. And if we're going to do something, let's come out of this with constructive actual policy. So I actually really like to hear that.
Yeah. So it's nice that there's kind of like a leader, someone that's in that a good, a country that is in favor of this technology, in favor of, some form of regulation that is considered under AML. And they'll be leading the charge here. They'll be arguing pro Bitcoin and against regulation that stifles innovation. And that here is so key to have somebody at this big meeting with all these countries that, with their leaders that probably have no clue about what this technology represents. And my feeling is Japan does. And we're seeing that from the exchanges that they have, from the way that they're forcing regulation on exchanges for security purposes. They're forcing them to close not because of the way that they're handling money, but because they don't think that their site security is good enough. That's impressive. That's something you don't see governments do for anything. I mean, you didn't see the United States government go to Equifax and go, excuse me, we think that one of your databases might be vulnerable to exposing every single person in the United States' personal information. No, that stuff doesn't exist. Japan, I don't even know how they decided to do that, and I'd love to figure that out in a future segment. But that's just, that shows to me that a government cares and that a government is interested in encouraging the innovation and future of cryptocurrency.
Speaking of which, have you heard any follow-up from this, Gox bankruptcy trustee and what's going on there with all that?
That's what I wanted to get into after this. And there's a website called thegoxening.com, which everyone can follow. It's just thegoxening.com. And every single cold wallet that Mt. Gox has under its control here is publicly available. And this website tracks every single wallet and how many coins are in it. And you can see the status, no move. So if you want to do this yourself, you can make your own script that's probably a lot better than what they have here on the site, tracking whether or not these coins have moved or not out of their cold wallet. So they don't have the ones that were already sold. Those were taken out. But yesterday, it looked like some coins had been moved, but the site glitched. So anything that moves, don't go crazy. Make sure you check the wallet address yourself on blockchain.info or whatever you use to track your transactions here. And you'll be able to tell if this is an actual real move. And then where's it going? Maybe you can figure out what exchange these are going to, because people are still trying to figure out what exchange
Jeremy just posted in the lounge, there's like a website and you can actually subscribe and get an alert by email if any of the wallets move.
Okay.
Cool. That's great. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, so right now, I'm just going to echo the same thing that I said last week about this, is that the trustee is probably not going to sell that much more of the Bitcoins until he gets further court approval. And I think the court's not going to give him any approval to sell until this motion for civil rehabilitation goes through, and the court decides whether or not they want to take Mt. Gox out of bankruptcy and move it towards civil rehabilitation. So until that happens, I think that we're okay. But I don't know how many Bitcoins the court approved the trustee to sell before the motion for civil, I don't think it's a motion, but at least the submission of the civil rehabilitation plans go through.
I thought it was really weird. Somebody on Twitter said, well, Karpelès might actually come out ahead, but if technically the whole thing is in insolvency, would he have any more claim on that asset, or would if there was like surplus money made from the sale of all of these assets, would the court just keep that money?
No, it would be his.
It actually would go to Karpelès, eh? Because somebody actually made that joke on Twitter, and I thought that's hilarious. Wouldn't that be like the ironic final sort of twist to all this story, as Karpelès comes out a billionaire on the other side of all this?
Well, evidently there is a documentary that came out about him that was released. I just saw the trailer for it. It's called Effortless French, Mt. Gox and Bitcoin's roller coaster ride. And it talks about how strange this man was and how high his IQ is, and that he always has a plan. And what really confused everyone is how he let Mt. Gox collapse in the way that it did, and running such a poor site with such terrible PHP script. And I don't know if the documentary states this, but the underlying idea is kind of elucidated in this trailer, that maybe he planned it this way.
Can't write better fiction than reality, I tell you. You can't do it. It's impossible.
And you can follow everything that he's ever posted on Reddit. So right around December, he was discussing plans that some private investors had approached him about restarting the exchange. And he said that he can't do anything unless the court takes Mt. Gox out of bankruptcy and into civil rehab. His tone is kind of changing now, and instead of talking about how it would be possible to open up Mt. Gox again, now he's saying that there may not be. It's kind of confusing following his train of thought and how it changes. He says that if coins do go to him because civil rehabilitation doesn't go through, he said that he would find a way of bringing the exchange back and paying everyone back personally. But I don't know how you trust a man who was in the position that he was, allowing what happened.
Did they actually, does anybody know, did they actually find the sort of BCE link to all this, BTCE? Like, did they actually have somebody by the short and curlies?
So the United States took into custody Alexander Vinnik, who was the BTCE guy, who was also, allegedly implicated in stealing the Mt. Gox coins. The bankruptcy trustee did send a formal request to the United States for more information about whether or not he still controls some of those coins from Mt. Gox, but my guess is that there's no way the United States would, cooperate or even be able to be in a position to disseminate stolen coins, which Vinnik most certainly laundered and put through a coin tumbler and made it really hard to make whole again.
Jeremy actually pointing out in the lounge, I think this is a good commentary. Anybody who's taken the level 1 education program, this whole Gox play out feels exactly like the Roy Disney story, right? So we got motivated sellers, has absolutely nothing to do with the Walt Disney Company. And in this case, I think has absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin could give a fucking rat's ass about all of this shit. And if anything, after the dust settles all of this, it's actually interesting. Alex Sturck is trying to lobby John Bollinger to come on our Coinigy show that Alex is trying to put together for tomorrow night. So if we're really lucky, Alex can get Bollinger to come on here. But I've talked to you guys about my sort of May expectation. We looked at that cycle chart and the way that volatility comes out of price through that May sort of window expectation. And, I keep saying it. I must sound like a broken record. But my feeling is let all this dust settle, let the volatility come out of the price, and I think you're going to have a buying opportunity of a lifetime here on this thing. But we got to get through this. The next couple months here, it's going to be choppy. It's going to be painful. And this might go on, I've been thinking that the ultimate bottom should come in sometime May to June, July time window. That's usually when Bitcoin seasonally likes to bottom. And we just have to be patient through all this, guys. It's fascinating to see the why. As technicians, we know the general, how it's going to play out, but we just never know the why. So. Okay, anything we've been buying recently? Maybe we should give the audience an idea. Have you been buying any alts lately?
Well, there is one thing that I want to cover that has to do with altcoins that's really important for everyone, and that's the Gemini exchange. So everyone knows that the Bitcoin futures products that are marketed by the CBOE and CME, their price depends on the settlement of the Gemini exchange. So that's how they help to determine the price of their forward futures products. So with that in mind, the Winklevoss brothers were in the headlines the other day, and they're looking to add additional currencies to their Gemini exchange. So how is this important? Well, if, for example, they do decide to add other altcoins, right now the prevailing idea is that Gemini will add, the obvious ones, which are Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and it looks like those are the only two, at least, that this article covers. But you can think up of at least a dozen different names that would make sense to add to the exchange. Now, with names like this being brought to Gemini,
how does Bitcoin Cash get added, but Bitcoin Gold doesn't? Like, why is it Bitcoin Cash is considered so much better? I don't understand that. But that's another conversation for another day. Sorry, don't mean to derail you. Whoops.
I mean, why is Neo not added? Why is OMG not added? Why?
Bitcoin Cash is a fork of the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Gold was a fork of the Bitcoin. So I mean, they basically happened even in the same year.
Well,
why is Bitcoin Cash?
People thought Bitcoin Cash was going to take over Bitcoin because it had faster transaction speed, lower fees, whereas Bitcoin Gold, that's really not what it was developed for. Bitcoin Cash was regulated for, not regulated, but it was intended to fill the purpose that Bitcoin was not fulfilling, which is fast transaction times with low fees. And that's the only thing that Roger Ver is hanging on to with dear life here, is that Bcash is better than Bitcoin because Bcash is faster and has lower fees. Well, guess what?
I heard the other day that Doge is actually doing more transaction than Bitcoin Cash these days.
Yeah, I mean, right now the Bitcoin mempool is super clear. You can send your transactions through at pretty quick speed. very quick speed. The fees are much lower than they used to be. The Lightning Network is starting to catch on. It's just, and SegWit adoption is taking off from where it used to be. So there's really no reason why, Bcash should be considered.
Even mentioned, it shouldn't even be part of this conversation.
Yeah, this will eventually die out in the next, hopefully by a year from now, no one's going to be talking about this thing. But back to Gemini and adding these other coins, I would expect if they did add Litecoin, that would be bullish just for the underlying price structure. But now there's some ideas coming out from various authors that if these additional cryptocurrencies are added to their exchange, this gives the SEC, the CFTC, and especially the CBOE and CME a way, specifically the CBOE and CME, a way of delivering a futures product that isn't currently available. So right now there's just Bitcoin. Well, if Gemini decides to list Litecoin, I know Ethereum's already on there, but there must be talks already about adding additional coins to the futures products. And if they can track the underlying asset, that's super bullish for the rest of the coins here. And as they continue to add them, there could be more and more of these coins that are brought to the futures products. And that's bullish, right? Any kind of idea that comes out that Litecoin is going to be added to futures, that suddenly legitimizes that in the real market. Just like when we saw Bitcoin ride up to its $20,000 mark, fueled by the idea that this is now legitimized by Wall Street, you're going to see the same exact thing happen for things like whatever coin they decide. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Litecoin, which it just has been around so long and has been accepted by Coinbase. And if it's added to Gemini, and then that's just something that they can throw together, it's probably not that hard.
Who didn't somebody just recently list an Bitcoin index? Well, who was it that did the index? There's somebody who's touting a crypto index that you can.
You're talking about Coinbase is starting a proprietary fund where they're starting a separate product that's only the coins that they have on Coinbase, and it's only for accredited investors. So it's a little bit different.
That's the song and dance that you have to do in the IPO market to keep the public out of, because it's not really in their best interest. If this thing goes under, they don't want to get sued into the ground, blah blah blah. So the point here is that it sounds to me like we're going to have two competing entities that are going to have these index kind of options. And it looks to me like this is basic. Gemini is the Winklevoss's baby. Yep. So they probably looked at Coinbase and said, fuck, we got to get in front of this and do this here, or these guys are just going to eat our lunch.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how Wall Street decides to track this. If they do decide to list, if Coinbase's, if their goal here is to get that index listed as an ETF or whatever it may be to be publicly traded,
probably down the road.
Yeah, that's another avenue to legitimize these products also. But I do think the shorter term, if Gemini can go to CBOE and CME with the approval of CFTC, listing another product may not be that far down the line here. And
where is Coinbase listed? Is it an American company?
Coinbase is an American company, yeah.
So Coinbase and Gemini are both American. And where is Gemini? Is Gemini East Coast?
I think it's New York, isn't it?
So there we go. So we might have an East Coast, West Coast play here. That makes sense. I don't know whether you guys are aware, but the East Coasters in California sometimes don't get along very well, eh? I remember I used to live in California, so I know the story very well. In fact, I thought I wouldn't be surprised. How has that California referendum? And do we have anybody here who lives in LA? Like Joshua, don't you live in LA? I don't know whether he's here. How's that? There was like a movement for California to actually have like a secession referendum. I wonder how that's going these days. So, wrong coast, best coast. Yeah, Benjamin. Yeah, Benjamin's in New York, so of course he's not gonna like the West Coasters. Yeah, it's totally like the rappers. How do the rappers go? Old West Side and all that shit, right? So you even see it in crypto. Okay, so anything you might be interested in buying here?
Pretty much anything that's at 88.6 to 78.6 over the next couple months. But specifically, I like the ideas that were tossed around in the lounge. I don't think anything really stands out to me. I mean, I know you need to at least give the community your BNB chart and show everyone what that looks like.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's a story we haven't even got to here today, eh? Like what I noticed, and this really gets my attention, super jazzed, is I've always thought that there's an Achilles heel in crypto, and that is these centralized exchanges. And if this space can evolve to the point of decentralized exchanges, then I think, this whole space goes, the whole idea of crypto being a new currency, a new alternative, a way to break away from the old system, I think that actually becomes realistic. And so we saw news out this morning. I was tweeting it out. Check out the Twitter feed along the lines that these guys are sort of on the forefront of the DEX idea. And there was, I think, a trade that developed here, and I might even argue that the news article was sort of like it happened right as the market was rallying into this 50% objective. So I wonder whether, this might have been sort of front running the news article. Maybe, day traders, anybody who's working off a lower time frame, we're going to get all crazy excited on this double bottom breakout. Really, you could argue double bottom within a double bottom. We could zoom this in and go triangle and all that shit. Just the structural, actually, and that's I don't know if that's a lower low there or not, but anyway, the structural breakout looks to me to be here. That'd be a tough trade just to grab that on the fly. But I think really the kick-ass trade was right off of here. And notice there's a 50% rule of that range. As this sort of news of them talking about this DEX exchange, the massive volume spike on that news event took price up into those levels. I certainly couldn't chase this. There's no fucking way I could do that, but I definitely want to get some of this on the books. So, I didn't take this trade. I'm not in this, but I'm definitely watching the other side of this. And interestingly enough, that original double bottom level, you see that the reload zone actually sets up off of the original double bottom. And I might put some bids in here just to get a position working on this, because the really, really interesting story here. I don't know whether I'm at the point of sort of pound the table, you got to load up, because the problem is that daily this does look a little vulnerable. This might have been just sort of the end of the move. Where the hell's the chart I wanted to show you? Right. I think we definitely had a play off of this tail. I'm a little worried that, if this thing does need to correct, it really has to come all the way back down here. So we'll see how this plays out. And I sort of tweeted out, I said, look, if the market comes back and it gives us a nice polite W here, I'll jump in if that happens to be in a reload zone. But right now I'm just cooling my jets. What I thought was really interesting about this story was not so much the Bitcoin play, is more the US dollar play. And what I noticed here was, and again, I wouldn't be surprised, as we sort of evolve here, a lot of people sort of left the Bitcoin story when Ethereum came along and just were sort of wrapped up in the Ethereum story. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a lot of trades and a lot of profit opportunities and stuff that are just basically the coin not valued versus Bitcoin, but just simply valued versus dollars. And does this actually represent in dollar terms a half decent trade idea? And what I saw here, and this just, I hate when I see this because I always see it in hindsight and it pisses me off. But in essence, hopefully everybody can see that this is a harmonic, and it is a bullish harmonic off the 78.6. You can see that came right down to 75.7. You could have maybe hunted this little double bottom right in here. But this actually looks to me like it was pointing up into the $17 to $20 area. So if you can somehow get some position on here, $7, $8, I think you can generate a risk-free trade just simply on the RLZ ping pong here. It might take through the summer for this to play out, totally possible. But I think there is realistically an opportunity to double your money here versus US dollars. And then what I noticed, and I see this all the time in crypto, it drives me crazy. We talk about this, in the education program. Everybody should understand this is a VTOP. And so as a result, we actually should expect this high to be tested at some point down the road. And ironically enough, if someone was to ask what is the trend, the actual trend of this thing is you play connect the dots. The trend is actually to look for a move. And, whenever I show this to crypto people, they're always blown away. But to actually see a move to go up and test this line at some point down the road. So now looking at this from like $6, $7, and I heard some people on Twitter and stuff were like, hey, I'm long from like $5 and just loving it. Rock on. I don't have a problem going and taking some nibbles off of the bottom end of this range reload zone. You know the story. And believe it or not, I actually think that this thing's going to work its way up into this $40, $50 area going forward. So I can already see tomorrow's bull markets starting to form. Right now, this might take a month or so for a bobbing and weaving in here. It might go today. You just don't know. Don't chase. And if anything, like I said, if you are interested in this story, then we want to drill down to lower time frames, of course, and then see whether there's any sort of levels that are lining up here. And I noticed that there's a cheeky little gap right down here at $7.60. You can see where the reload zone is. You can see how that would be a nice play against this tail right here. And, if I wanted to be a buyer, I'm not going to pay up here, but I will work bids down, bottom of value, right? You know how the story goes. I'll be more than happy to be a buyer on tests of these bottoms down in here. I don't have a problem with that. And what it's really interesting here, I find, is that this is very story specific. It's not a rising tide lifts all boats. We were in that kind of market last year where you could just throw any shit at the wall and it was going to stick. We're in you got to find the stories, you got to find the FA drivers, and of course you got to be super sharp on your levels on your charts. I noticed, we've talked at length with you guys about this recently, but I noticed the pot coins are starting to perk up. We talked about Candy the other day. Look how this guy perked up through reload zones, right? After, you can see the gap fill right there, right? If you had just had your bid working at this gap at 3,000, geez, you actually hit like 50% return just on this rally this morning. I don't know whether, if anything, if you miss that, then what you want to do is, off the lower time frames, get another reload zone working and see if you can find any gaps. What I find interesting, look how powerful this reversal level is here. So clearly, working bids down in this area, not bad. Kind of sloppy price action, but nonetheless, yeah, it makes sense. 420, all that kind of talk. And actually, there's one that I've been trying to buy back into, and you can see they're just flirting with me. They're just driving me crazy here. But in essence, this one, Podcoin, just another perfect example of, we identify gaps and we just slowly work our bids at those gaps, and you just got to patiently wait. I've been posting this chart in the lounge. So this is definitely an idea. You're more than welcome to join me here. There is the gap, right? And if we zoom in on today's price action, you can see how they're trying to psychologically fuck with me, right? So they dip it down and then they spike it up here. Okay, let's get this guy to panic and move his bid. And I'm just patient. I'm not in any hurry. You see where the gap is. I got my order working, and they're just trying to fuck with my head right now to get me to balk. But I'm more than happy I got my order. Now, keep in mind, we got some people in here that actually are starting to get fills in here. Great, fine. This is a perfectly fine level to be interested in these names. But I've got my order working. I'm not in any hurry. Kevin, and he's joking there, making fun of me. He had this idea, EVR, and same sort of logic. There's the range, bottom of the range, get your bids working. I got another fill here off of the low end of the range here. So now my TRI's stinky average is down in this area, right against all these lows. And check out this chart. I mean, this is ridiculous. That is that chart. Isn't that crazy? Right? So we zoom in. Oh, yeah, there's the trade, right? Now, here it is again, guys. And, I hope this message doesn't start sounding so boring and repetitive that you tune me out, because this is the way capitalists make money. If I can afford to risk a buck here, is the risk reward skewed heavily in my favor? If I risk a buck here, what is that dollar going to be worth if we go up and fill this cheeky gap up here? That's some serious multiples. That's 20x. 20x. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what I am saying is I've played this game long enough. I should be able to get a free position on a double. And I think that this is very realistic that, remember ZCL? It was the same damn thing. No difference. I mean, obviously the story itself was different, but it's the same shit, just different pile. So, I'm not predicting the future, but what I am simply saying is you have to force yourself in these kind of markets to step up and start nibbling. It's difficult. Don't get me wrong. People around you are going to be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, that thing's going off the board. That thing looks like a piece of shit. But what we actually have to look at is we have to go, well, is it worth my while to take a shot off of these lows, considering where these people bid these prices up to when the market gets insane? And as sort of Thomas pointed out here a moment ago, and I kind of put on the tweets and stuff, I mean, if you can build a plan and you got to have decent setup that forces you to buy against lows. Well, now somebody's fucking going in and buying this. Don't go and bid this up right now, please. But if you can build a plan that forces you to go in and buy against lows and doubles are realistic, right? You have to force yourself to act. You don't really have any choice. But there's so many of them, guys. We had this one this morning. It's just, three completely unrelated industries. Completely unrelated. These guys, they're in like the geo coin. And this is a fun story. I really love this story. Totally unrelated, not Potcoin, and frankly speaking, I don't even know what business EVR is in. Does anybody know? Kevin, what business are these guys even in? I don't even know. But completely uncorrelated, unrelated. And really the question here ultimately is, can you just, does it make sense why good old Brian's in here buying against these lows? Hopefully you've watched enough of these daily briefs. You watched enough of, you've taken the education programs. You should look at this chart and go, well, that's a no-brainer. But the problem, of course, is that do you think the public is at all interested in this right now? I'd be willing to bet they aren't. So that's the kind of market that we're in, guys. I mean, like it or lump it. And the cool part about it is if you can force yourself to go in, just nibble, nibble, nibble. Then when the public comes and they get all stupid and the markets are ratcheting higher, away we go. Right? It's rinse and repeat. Ironically enough, man, it's shocking how just so cliche this game is. So, all right, well, we've gone about an hour and 20 minutes here this morning, so I think the good people have got value today. I think it is, Kevin. I think so. I think didn't they make a switch? Kevin asked, is GEO a UBIC token now? And I seem to remember that they did. So, all right. So, any closing thoughts for the good people here, Thomas?
We got another 2 hours to go, right?
This isn't one of Brian's 2014 level 1 classes. Anybody remembers the school program from back then, man? I used to keep you guys in class for like 3 hours straight.
That was a short class.
No. I think we probably ought to call it a day.
That's all for me.
Okay, guys. Hope everybody got good value out of the presentation today. I'm really so pleased and so impressed with the professionalism of this space. I mean, you guys are really putting the time and effort in. You understand the importance of, really vetting out your ideas and working with trade setups and risk management. So I think this community is just fucking kicking ass, guys. I have to say. I'm so honored to be and humbled to be able to come and hang out with you guys on a daily basis. 1 + 1 = 3. And I think, we just keep on working together, and let's just keep making this space better and better. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.
Roar.